one of the most popular questions within the spirit of this age is who or what are the 144,000? So today I'm going to be explaining exactly what the 144 are. We first see the 144,000 enter our collective mind through the Bible, specifically within Revelations, when there is a prophecy foretold that there will be 144,000 sealed, therefore protected by God, members of 12 tribes of Israel. And so within this 144,000 that are supposed to be saved from the rapture, that will be redeemed of the earth. Some religious groups have interpreted this to mean the 144,000 are recently converted Christians who are protected from the wrath of God in the end of times, and therefore sealed. To be sealed is to be claimed as one's property. So to be sealed means ownership. In this way, the 144,000 in the book of Revelations are also interpreted to be God's servants that bring sinners to Jesus Christ during the 7-year tribulation period. Other religious groups interpret the 144,000 to be a symbolic number that is really referring to all Christians, since numbers in apocalyptic literature were intended to be read symbolically. In this respect, the number 12 squared and then multiplied by 1,000 to make 144,000 is used to symbolically refer to all Christians. And the more modern spiritual thought have come deeper to the esoteric roots of this concept, where 144,000 is not a literal number of people who are sealed, yet the number simply refers to all who have attained unity consciousness. We now see this revised and remodeled into the new age that we are in currently, and now it's come in the form of volunteers from ascended worlds and ascended realms that have come into this physical earth realm in order to volunteer their higher consciousness and contribute towards the momentum that we see here happening on earth that will eventually raise the collective consciousness into a new earth. So why the number 144,000? And even more, why is that number and that prophecy revised and even relevant for us to continue along with this paradigm of there being something special and something therefore very important about 144,000, whether they be people, whether this concept really be a metaphor, or was this prophecy simply infused into our collective mind in order to enhance the fear and pressure of not being one of the 144,000 selected that will rise above and be saved from the rapture? So, in order to first understand this from the esoteric sphere of reality, we first have to understand how this concept that was transferred over from Christianity got translated and connected into this new age and into new age thought. And that is through still this concept strongly embedded within the collective mind, that whether it's religion or whether it's spirituality, there is some significance, there is some importance bestowed upon this number that's revealed within this number of 144,000. And so, in the New Age, once we see is that it's rather to do with the higher consciousness individuals who specifically incarnated into this physical human form with a dormant mission at hand to awaken the collective, raise the collective consciousness here on earth into that ascended world, into that new earth. And so we see this concept of there being a 144,000 now carried over into this new age and into a new context, one that is more empowering, one that is more liberated than merely just being spared the wrath of a God. Now it's we are servants or helpers of God to be able to come and bring our frequency, bring our genetic gifts dormant within all of our physiology to the collective at hand. But one of the main issues with this is that there's not just 144,000 volunteers or beings from ascended worlds who have come and incarnated into the human form. There's more than just 144,000 beings here who are even in a high enough level of consciousness to be considered enlightenment. So what is the 144,000 then? 144,000 does have a very strong significance to spirituality and to our awakening, because its true power and its true context is not to be found inside its religious form, nor in its newly spiritual form. The 144,000 is in direct reference to the fact that our universe is a mirrored universe. And in this mirrored universe, what we see is the fact that we are awakening, therefore an ascended being who is entering into, if not already operating, in the state of enlightenment. And that would be reflected in this mirrored universe by all extensions and by all forms of this reality, starting with our genome, starting with our DNA. And so when we have a concept that's highly significant to our awakening, such as seeing the number 144, or this concept known as 144,000, it's not actually referring to 144,000 literal people who are either going to be saved or who are going to volunteer. It's not that literal. Instead, 144,000 is something that is mirrored to us as we are awakening and enlightened on all levels of this reality. And the first level it will start at is the physiological level. So the first layer of 144,000 is found within our own temple, within our own body. And that is once we start to go through an awakening, we will start seeing all of the subtle energy channels within our body and all of the meridians within our body that feed into the major energy centers start to go through a transformation. This transformation produces a cascade effect, similar to proliferation or a polymerase chain reaction. So the nadis are subtle energy channels that life force, or prana, travel through. They are the rivers in our subtle body where life force flows through, energy in motion. When our consciousness is awakening, our frequency begins to rise. So it's not just a mental awakening that's happening that is separate from our body and spirit. It's also the actual frequency of our whole energy field that is raising its hertz. Now, imagine how much more prana, or life force, our subtle body would start to take in and would start to require in order to keep up with our frequency raising. Eventually, the life force streaming through the subtle energy channels of the nadis makes its way to the three primary nadis, the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushumna. The Sushumna is the central channel. The Ida is the feminine channel. It is equated with the moon and the left hemisphere of our subtle body. The Pingala is the masculine channel. It is equated with the sun and the right hemisphere of our subtle body. When Ida and Pingala awaken at the base of the spine, they are meant to move in synergy, up a spiral motion to the central channel of the Sushumna, until they unify at the third eye center, awakening the higher spiritual organs of perception. So, once the 72,000 subtle energy channels have been brought into unity through these three primary channels, they multiply in their power from 72,000 to 144,000. And guess how many petals the third eye center is represented by? 144. And guess how many petals the crown center is represented by? 1,000. 1,000 times 144 is 144,000. Now, this transformation is very important because one of the significance of seeing 144 is there's an amplification. When you see 144, that is not only mirroring to you through the mirror of our universe, so it's reflecting to you that you are going through an awakening at a cellular level, at the level of our mitochondria that powers our DNA. So it's happening that cellular, that on that inner scale of reality. And then from there, we see 144 mirrored to us again. And this time, 144,000, which reduces to 144, so 144, will now be seen as the amplification, the times two, the amplification of our nadis, our subtle energy channels within the body, which start to balance and rise and come into union. Therefore, they double. And that is what we experience as the 144. That's when the 72 energy channels called nadis in the subtle body rise and come into union. So, the other significance that 144 means, on top of it being a number that is mirroring to us, that we are going through an amplification process, an awakening, is also union. 144 and the 144,000 are both different ways of portraying the enlightenment that occurs as the result of the union of the hemispheres within our body. So when the left and right hemispheres within our body come into their full capacity, they fully come online, and then they reach union, therefore enlightenment, that is producing the number 144, and that is then amplified into 144,000. So at its very core, the 144,000 is a direct reference to the polymerase chain reaction that happens within our DNA that amplifies it and synthesizes it, aka union, into the light body. 144,000 is an esoteric reference to the light body. And that's why it's so pivotal that everyone who's going through an awakening sees 144 all the time, because it's mirrored in our universe back to us what's happening at a physiological level, at an emotional, mental level, at a spiritual level. Because that's what a mirrored universe does. It shows you on every level, starting with the physiological level. But 144 doesn't stop there, because 144,000 is also a hertz, and not just any hertz. It's the hertz that has the vibration that we know to be the state of enlightenment. So it's amplifying this on all levels of reality once again. That's why 144,000 is so multi-layered. It's referencing the light body before anything else. But it's showing you that on all scales of reality, because as above, so below. In fact, as above, so below is way more relevant when it comes to our awakening than any other concept, because our awakening is the reason why a human being is here at this time in this collective on Earth. It is for our awakening. And so when it comes to being able to understand that 144 is something that we will see not only as numbers trying to communicate something to us, but then also it's happening within our biology and within our physiology. And then we're also having it be an actual frequency that we can measure and calibrate an enlightened state of consciousness to operate at. So it's showing us the momentum happening within the self, but also within the collective, because 144,000 is also a reference to the 100th monkey. And the 100th monkey effect simply means that there's been enough awakening occurring within the collective and enough momentum towards an ascension timeline that now we're starting to be able to manifest those shifts into the collective and manifest those shifts into this physical reality. So 144 is a direct reference to the light body, and it's a direct reference to the momentum that's required to accelerate the collective consciousness into an ascended timeline. A very important feature about the 144,000 within the context of this age is that these volunteers that specifically have a mission to come to Earth and raise the collective consciousness here have dormant, very beneficial DNA that is meant at the right time to be able to unlock its frequency and therefore alter and help entrain the human consciousness into this higher vibratory and higher physiological information that those 144,000 carry within their own etheric template and genome. Now, in my video, Are You a Starseed?, I talk about how the concept of there being higher consciousness or higher density beings that are residents of ascended worlds coming down and incarnating into the human form is not only something that's common, it's actually something that is so well known that it's specifically targeted. And one of the ways that we dumb down this concept and that we come into this concept and distort it is by using this concept to now create a sense of specialness or just a lot of confusion that is meant to lower the frequency of these concepts so that then they can just become recycled and turned around back into the same matrix control system that they were designed to break the consciousness of the collective out of. Even though there are many of us who are seeding our consciousness into this reality from a higher density, it is still not accurate to say there's a literal amount and it's 144,000. And what's actually taking place within the genome, which is what we're sharing with our environment, and that frequency that is helping others unlock their consciousness, is actually something that's dormant and viable within everyone. It's just a matter of how many seals are placed over a consciousness's genome. And that depends on how awakened a being is. So people who are going through an awakening are having less seals placed over each aspect of their genome. And that unlocking of those seals that were once protecting and once coveted are now being seen for what they are. They're being seen for cutting us off from our divinity and from our light body. And so these seals, now in this age, we don't want. They're not protecting us, but we're unlocking them. And when we've unlocked these seals that are placed over our genome, what happens is we have more access to more of our information, and it's becoming more organized. And when there's more organization and synthesis to more of our DNA, it's no longer this 2 double helix system. It becomes 12-stranded and then 14 strands. And 14 amplified is 144,000. If you think that consciousness on its own can't access more of its own information, shift its own expression through its DNA and through its genetics, then you don't believe in evolution. Consciousness is what facilitates the entire evolutionary process. It's all about consciousness. And better yet, just look at a tomato. A tomato has more genes than we do, and the genetic expression of a tomato is highly unstable. They're like 3 genetic switches away from mutating into Nephilim butterfly and turning all of us into their bitches. In fact, it is so natural for consciousness to be able to evolve itself and unlock its seals and access more of its information that you would have to actually try to stop it. You would actually have to try and force that process to be scrambled or to be ceased in some manner. I hope this has amplified your awakening. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for higher dimensional guidance through spiritual awakening. See you next time.